Psst, hey you. Hey, you want some proof for the existence of God? I mean, real proof, not that silly crap we see around here all the time? Yeah, I do too. But we're not going to get any of that today. Instead, we're going to get more gullible, delusional crap wrapped up in a bow by someone with some pretty clear mental problems. In other words, it's just another day at Bitchspot. So let's get to it. Here's a really tiny channel called Believe Faith. And they say they can prove God to us. Yeah, sure they can. The moment I hear that, I know that they're not even in the same ballpark as proof. They aren't even aware what proof is, and that's clearly the case today. So let's get down to brass tacks. Why can't the religious actually provide anything remotely resembling objective evidence? Because the crap they believe is just that. Crap. Complete, unsupported, unjustifiable, total crap. So hold your nose, because here we go again.
Take off the blindfold. I'm going to attempt this one more time.
So, wait a minute. You say you've done this before, and it's failed miserably, and you haven't learned your lesson yet? You know, they say that insanity is trying the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. Well, we know the religious are nutty, but this is just proof of it right there. Come on, how hard is it to get it through your tiny little head? There is no proof for your imaginary friend. None. Zero. Zip. Zilch. Nada. There's nothing there, yet the religious really have a problem coming to grips with the truth. Mostly because they just don't care, because they've got something wrong with them. But let's be honest, that's hardly a surprise.
About the proof of God. Tried to film this a few times and it just never seemed right. Could never get it right. But I'll try it again.
And probably fail again, but hey, as long as it makes it to YouTube so we can get a gander at it, I'm actually okay with that. Now, keep in mind, he seems to think that this is the version that actually works. This is the best that he can produce. I bet he's going to feel pretty damn stupid when absolutely nobody falls for it. Well, probably not. He'll just find someone or something else to blame for his own failures. You know, the devil made him screw up. Something stupid like that. But yeah, go ahead. Let's see the best you could come up with. This ought to be good.
In Daniel 2, there's a composite of this. It's like a statue. The head is gold. It means there was a time, the golden age.
Okay, let's stop you right there. I want to get this out of the way right up front. Nobody who doesn't already take the Bible seriously is going to take the Bible seriously. This seems to be a serious problem for the religious, as we've discussed around here a lot. They seem to think that we're just like they are, delusional, gullible, desperate for a magical father figure in the sky, looking for reasons to reach out for a God and become one of the faithful. And they're wrong. We don't want that. We don't care about that. We want reality, and whether the religious like it or not, what they believe isn't real. It's just made up, emotionally comforting nonsense. There is no evidence behind any of it, and that's why we reject it in the first place. How much do you want to bet that everything he says is just an appeal to emotion and religious gullibility? Anybody? Anybody? Yeah, let's find out.
It's Babylon. And it goes all the way down to his feet through time. The chest is silver and bronze. The head is gold. The breast and arms are silver. The belly and thighs are brass. The legs are iron. The feet are iron and clay.
And from that description, the religious read a lot of things into it, don't they? Things that are simply not demonstrable in the real world. Of course, and this whole thing comes from Daniel chapter 2, where Daniel interprets the dream of Nebuchadnezzar II and then spins the whole thing as an allegory for God. Yeah, big deal. Who cares? You have to remember that in the ancient world, the dreams of kings were often regarded as portents when, we know today, that's utter nonsense. Dreams are just dreams. They have no inherent meaning. There is no need to interpret your dream of running through your high school naked. It means absolutely nothing of any importance. But when it comes to religion, the religious simply make backwards interpretations to fit the perceived facts. None of these things can accurately predict the future. Not once, not ever. It's just crap that they yank straight out of their asses, and not everyone agrees. Go ask a Seventh-day Adventist or a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon what this stuff means. And you'll get some pretty bizarre answers, I'll tell you that. The real fact is, it means nothing, and the religious are just being dumb.
And God brings this image down. And what this image is referring to is all the ages of all these different ages through time, and who would be in control of Jerusalem in order from the beginning of time until the end.
And let's say it all together. How do you know that? And how did you test it? We're not exactly at the end of time now, are we? So anything that you interpret going forward, you have absolutely no way to verify it. You just have to have faith that somehow it's all going to work out in a way that you can use to declare victory. This is just someone declaring after the fact, well, this means this, without having any way to verify that's actually what it means. How do they know any of this? They don't. It's all just made up nonsense.
And the end is where the feet are iron and clay mixed, and God throws a big rock and it hits those feet, and it's very brittle, and it falls. The whole thing does.
You do know that this is all just a dream, right? I mean, honestly, I don't think he's aware of that. That is, if any of this ever happened in the first place, which we still can't prove. But for the sake of argument, let's assume that Nebuchadnezzar actually had this dream and actually called Daniel in to interpret it. That doesn't make any of it real. It doesn't mean that whatever ad hoc explanation Daniel invented out of thin air had any impact on reality. You'd have to provide additional, objectively verifiable evidence to show that any of it means anything at all. And can the religious do that? What, are you kidding? They don't even try. This is why they're such absurd laughingstocks. This proves absolutely nothing at all.
And it's talking about the fallen angels will come again, just like they did in Genesis 6.
You do know that you're talking about a book of mythology, right? I really hate to have to be the one to keep bringing this up, but nobody in their right mind takes this silly book of yours seriously. It's like making an argument based on the events in the Harry Potter books. It doesn't prove anything. It's a story. If you want to suggest that it's more, it's up to the believers to prove it with objectively verifiable evidence. I don't suppose they're ever going to give that a shot, are they? Yeah, that's what I thought.
And take fair flesh women as wives. And when they do that, they will they won't be babies born like they were in chapter 6 of Genesis, because they're not going to be here that long. They're coming here with Satan when Satan is cast to earth. In in Luke 10:18, and also in Revelations 12:7, he's cast to earth, and he'll be claiming he's Jesus.
This guy, he's all over the place, right? This is just a theist cherry-picking passages from the Bible that he can try to make work, so long as you don't look at any of it in context or expect any of it to make any real sense. These people, they really are lunatics when you think about it. He needs some serious mental help. You might as well be reading from the Lord of the Rings. I don't care how much you want to believe that Sauron is coming back to Mordor to watch over all of Middle-earth. It's all just made-up nonsense. Great book, but not true. Try again.
And anyways, let's go back to the subject. How could a book tell you who would be in control of Jerusalem from the beginning of time until now in order? No book could do that.
Nor did it, because nowhere in Daniel or anywhere else in the Bible has it described anything unknown at the time about the future. Not once. Please show us where Benjamin Netanyahu is named in the Bible. He's the current Prime Minister of Israel, after all. Where are these wonderful future-telling powers in the Bible? Oh, right, they don't exist. This is all interpretation made by people with a vested interest in believing that it's all true. And none of this is actually in the Bible. You people are idiots.
The second thing is I wanted to show you was when David was Psalms 22, that was 1,000 years before the New Testament and when Jesus was being hung on the cross. But he was talking about how his hands will be pierced, his feet will be nailed.
David said nothing of the sort. This again is just an interpretation by Christians desperately looking for validation of their absurd beliefs. It is nothing of the sort. It does nothing to help them out. It is more likely that the gospel writers, whoever wrote Mark in this case, specifically wrote it to match Psalms, rather than the psalmist getting some bizarre half prediction of the future right. This is very common in the Gospels, and in fact, Matthew, as we've talked about before, spent a lot of time looking at the Old Testament for things that he could rip entirely out of context as predictions of the Jesus story. The parts of Psalms that are referenced in Mark, the author, whoever the hell that was, skipped around a lot and borrowed concepts here and there and just forgot about the rest. I've brought this up before, but most people at the time of the writing of the Gospels, they were illiterate. The common man couldn't have known anything about what was in the old writings, except what they were told about. So the gospel writers, again, whoever they were, because the gospels were all written completely anonymously, they just pulled well-known concepts from Jewish scripture and pretended that it predicted the coming of Jesus. Except none of it actually did. And dumb people like this guy, they fall for it without question because they really don't care if any of it is true. We can go through Psalms and find all of the parts that conveniently got skipped. Like verse 12, which talks about many bulls encircle me and roaring lions open their mouths against me. Well, where exactly is that in the gospel narrative? Or verse 20, which reads, deliver my life from the sword, my precious life from the power of the dogs. Rescue me from the mouths of the lions. Save me from the horns of the wild oxen. What the hell does that have to do with anything in the New Testament? Do some research, for crying out loud. But the religious never do they?
Be pierced. And he was also talking about how that these soldiers would be gambling for his clothes, and that they would, the Bulls of Bethlehem would be around him.
How is that a thing? First off, it's Bashan, which was in what is today Syria. That's more than 500 kilometers away from Jerusalem. The Bulls of Bethlehem certainly wouldn't have been around any real Jesus, at least not at the time of his supposed crucifixion. At normal walking speed, it would take about 100 hours to walk that far. So that's just nonsense right there, especially 2,000 years ago. But again, we see a complete lack of any kind of independent research or any understanding of what's actually being talked about. Because these people just don't give a shit. What the fuck is wrong with them?
And all this stuff, he's telling you exactly what's going to happen when David is crying out to God, God, why have thou forsaken me? Like Jesus said on the cross.
Like the story told in Matthew 27:46 claims he said. We just know that the anonymous author of Matthew, again, whoever that was, went on a wild goose hunt through the old writings of the Jews to find things that he could interpret as a prediction of Jesus. There's no evidence whatsoever that any of it actually happened at all. Every bit of this requires the skeptic to buy into the Bible narrative, hook, line, and sinker, and not ask any other intelligent questions about these claims. Because the second that you start to ask questions, the whole narrative comes tumbling down.
Well, that's what Jesus was doing. He was telling you it's fulfilled, been fulfilled. The time has been fulfilled now, and that's when he was put on the cross, and those exact things happened that David was talking about 1,000 years before, up to the words that will come out of the soldiers' mouths.
And how do you know that? That's just blind faith and complete ignorance. Because in order for anyone to take any of this seriously, you have to be able to independently corroborate any of it, and surprise, surprise, the religious simply cannot. All they can do is pretend that because they are emotionally invested in the story, it just has to be true. But other religions do the exact same thing with their beliefs. Any religion that deals in supposed prophecy, they're all doing something identical. The Christians don't buy into the other religious bullshit any more than the other religions buy into Christian bullshit. Why? Because it's all bullshit, and none of them really give a damn.
So remember this and think about this. This is proof that God is real and the Bible is real.
It is nothing remotely of the sort. And I think it's funny that the only comment on this video when I wrote this script was, learn what proof is. Because none of these people have a clue. Not a one. When the non-religious ask for proof, this is not what we mean. Do better. It's kind of hard to do worse.
So there you have it. And I hope that can help you some. And I think that's all I've got to say.
And you should be embarrassed to say it, because holy crap, that was sad. But if you notice, the people who are getting on YouTube and making complete fools of themselves with this, those are the people who just saw something in a video or read it on a blog or got it preached at them from the pulpit, and none of these mental midgets have ever gone out of their way to test the conclusions, to verify what's been said. Nope, they just grab it and run with it because it's got to be true, right? It makes them feel good, so why bother trying to verify any of it at all? Because that takes work, and who wants to do that, right? This is really why these people are incapable of dealing with the honest questions of the skeptic. They are operating on blind faith, and we're not. We care only what is actually so, and we expect better than, I have faith, as an explanation. Faith is irrelevant. It's why they don't really want to talk to us. At best, they talk at us, and we just roll our eyes because the whole thing is so utterly and obnoxiously dumb. It's just desperation to get to an emotionally comforting conclusion, whether it has anything to do with reality or not, and most of the time, it absolutely does not. It's why the second we get away from blind faith, the religious tend to just bugger off and go into hiding. They have nothing else. I'm not sure how else to see that beyond absurdly pathetic. But that's what these people actually are, right? It's what religion is. It's why it's falling apart. And that is a truly wonderful thing.
Boom, dicky bum, 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 dicky bum.